or welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to bring you today's video. I've been working so very hard on it for months now, not even including the time it took to read all these books. Welcome to my best books I read in 2024 and 2023 list video. It's a chunky one. I attempted to make a video like this last year, but that was also the crunch time where I had to submit my very first dissertation draft, so that wasn't gonna happen. So you all are lucky that you get a combination of the best of 2 years of my reads, and it was a lot. It was very hard to come up with this list. That's why there's 11 and not 10, but yeah, let's get into it. The last couple of years, I've had a lot of things on my mind. Of course, all of my PhD science topics, but in my free time, I have been devouring all sorts of books, movies, and video essays, of course, on nature, race, gender and sexuality, neurodivergence, society. This best of list is a pretty good example of all those topics mixed together. Enjoy! At number 11, because like I said, I couldn't decide on just 10, we have Working Stiff by Dr. Judy Melinek. Judy Melinek, the author and subject of this memoir, reflects on her time as a rookie forensic scientist, like Bones, and her life as a young mother in New York City. Do you want to guess when she started working under the NYC medical examiner? Well, you'd be correct if you said just before 9/11. Can I get a collective oof on that one? If you want to hear more about what that very specific time in her life was like, you gotta read the last chapter in this book. Trigger warning for like a whole lot of stuff. Check it out. I mean, the whole book, really, she's a medical examiner of dead bodies, but yeah, it's not just the 9/11 chapter. This memoir was first published in 2014. And let me tell you, the abortion chapter did not age well. Not at all because of the writing itself, but rather because of the horrors implied. Like I said, trigger warning. Melinek does go into some detail when describing the heartbreaking scene of abortion clinics where these unlicensed fucks were responsible for the many deaths of women in uterus having folk. Because remember, my dear viewers, making abortion illegal does not make it go away. What you end up doing is you end up banning safe abortions, leading to higher death rates of people who are already mothers to children that very much need them alive. In this chapter, Melinek breathes a sigh of relief from just 10 years ago. She's relieved because back then, with Roe's protection, the people who needed this life-saving medical treatment were able to do so. Mostly. But when I read this in 2024, her sigh of relief sure hit different. Y'all in the 2010s got complacent, is what I'm saying. Silence is as good as acceptance in the face of fascism. Get it through your thick skulls. Anyway, sometimes it's not just the dead bodies that were haunting her, but their surviving relatives, like this mother who, months after the doctor had declared her son's death to be an accidental drug overdose, she kept calling Melinek's office at least once a week, begging her to change her son's death to a homicide on the ME's official report. She was convinced that her young son did not use drugs, therefore he couldn't have OD'd. Oof. Grief is rough. Yeah, look, I am a human science sicko. I really enjoyed hearing the ins and outs of autopsies and forensic anthropology. The human body is wild, and I am so impressed by people's ability to piece together the cause of death from toxicology tests, physical examinations of the dead body, and witness testimonies. If you aren't squeamish about death and dead bodies, check this one out. At number 10, we have Tell Me I'm Worthless by Alison Rumfitt. If you watched my last video that I put out, somewhere up here. I'm going to tag it. My 2024 horror recommendation video. I read some of my favorite quotes from this book there. So, number one, make sure to check out the content warnings before venturing into this particular book. But definitely check out that video if you want a more in-depth review of the book. But for now, I'll just give you my highlights. Tell Me I'm Worthless is a dirty, grungy, queer mess of a haunted house story. 3 teen girls venture into an abandoned house, but only to leave. 3 years later, the 2 survivors are still drowning in guilt, and one of the girls is using sex, drugs, and parties in demented hopes of alleviating her insomnia. I don't think that's gonna work, babe. So, the girls try something different. They return to the cursed house, determined to retrieve their friend from the house's painful clutches. This horror story is very trans, very emotional. Proceed with caution. Yee! Number 9, we have one from a newly favorite author of mine, Lee Mandello. This is Feed Them Silence. This is an amusing little novella that centers a middle-aged lesbian, Dr. Sean Kell-Ludden, a wildlife biologist / neurosurgeon. Anyway, she might have been an MD PhD, I don't remember. Sean somehow got funding to spearhead a team to develop a method for mind-to-mind communication with one of the last remaining wild wolves in this near-future setting. Why? Good question. Goodreads says it's for Sean's scientific curiosity, but also her secret lifelong desire to experience the intimacy and freedom of wolfishness, to see the world through animal eyes, smell the forest thick with olfactory messages, even the taste of blood and viscera of a fresh kill, and above all, to feel the belonging of a pack. Like, I get it, but I feel like there are more important things you could be studying. Just saying. Importantly, Sean, Dr. Kell-Ludden, is also gay married to another high-achieving lesbian academic researcher. Dr. Rhea, maybe also Kell-Ludden? I have no fucking clue, because like Sean, this story is not really interested in the details of Sean and Rhea's marriage. It's more about how Sean's obsession with the act of yearning for intimacy and belonging, an obsession which ends up driving her away from the one person who should be a good source of intimacy and belonging, her own wife of literal decades. By the way, her wife's name isn't even mentioned in the Goodreads book summary. Not a great omen for their marriage. Like, the reviews literally mention Kate, Sean's study wolf, more than Sean's wife. Sean and Rhea's dysfunctional, interracial, sapphic marriage is messy, to say the least. Sean seems to have a history of sticking her head in the sand when it comes to uncomfortable truths, like how her marriage is crumbling due to her self-centeredness and how obsessing over a single wolf doesn't do much for science or anyone in the grand scheme of things, really. Which Rhea points out, many times. She is not supportive of this project for, dozens of good reasons. But Sean has repeatedly demonstrated that she mainly cares about her own self-interests. I highly doubt this lady is actually going to move to India to be with her wife, Rhea. Please, just get divorced already. Stop stringing your poor wife along like this. Stop pretending like you care about her. To be fair, Rhea isn't perfect either. She makes some pretty large mistakes in here, but you know what? At least she was trying. Also, come here. Hey, white women, look at me. Hold my hand, please. I'm sorry I'm yelling at you so much in this video. I didn't mean to do that. It's just y'all shenanigans keep coming up. Please try to take this as constructive criticism, a plea for bridge building. Stop it with the pussy hats, the safety pins, the blue bracelets. These signals of allyship don't really do much besides make yourself feel better. Plus, the pussy hats are, specifically, those hats are turf coated. So, instead, may I suggest opening your eyes to the very real needs of your neighborhood. Literally the square mile where you live. I bet you that there is an elderly neighbor of yours who would love your help getting some weekly groceries. Instead of ignoring, pitying, or harassing your homeless neighbors, perhaps you could do what you can to help them access food and shelter. Just a suggestion. Ask yourself, what would Jesus do? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Mwah. P.S. Also, early on, there is an animal rights demonstration blocking the entrance to Sean's lab. You remember the lab housing the brain-chipped, mind-meld test subject Wild Wolf that she named Kate, like a real human woman. And Sean has the gall to complain about the protesters not protesting correctly. Girl. And she said that they should be more quiet and orderly. Bitch, what do you think a protest is? Oh, but she defends herself, saying how, she did her time at Pride. That is some peak white feminism behavior. This fully adult woman would literally rather pretend to be girlfriends with an undomesticated wolf by non-consensually injecting her own consciousness into the wolf's brain than attend therapy and work on her marriage. A very dramatic but pretty quick read. Number 8 is The Reformatory by one of my favorite horror authors right now. One of them. Definitely up there. Tananarive. If you are a fan of horror and you haven't read anything by Tananarive, what are you doing? Go to your local or online library, wherever you get books that it isn't Amazon. Go check out either this book or The Good House right now. Please. Also, can every racist idiot who claims racism ended after slavery was abolished please do me a personal favor and read this book? Thank you. Do crafts a gripping tale of 2 Black children struggling to survive in Jim Crow, Florida. Their mother is dead and their father was run out of town by a racist mob. Their lives were already rough, but then, one unlucky day, the elder sister Gloria gets hit on by this grubby white boy. But before the creep can take it too far, Gloria's little 12-year-old brother Robbie kicks him in the knee. Normally, I would be rooting for him and for folks to stand up to creeps like this, but poor little Robbie just ruined his entire life. Because that was no ordinary creep he kicked. It was the son of the McCormick family, the wealthy plantation family that literally used to own Robbie and Gloria's older relatives. Shit's fucked. So, poor Robbie gets arrested and had the racist book thrown at him, and he ended up getting sent to the Reformatory. This prison masquerading as a reformatory school is where they, white folks, start killing them, Black folks, as Gloria and Robbie's father once had warned them. Probably not once, probably like many, many times. Gloria tried everything in her power to get Robbie out of there. He was only sentenced to 6 months, but that's plenty of time for horrific beatings or worse to occur. Yeah, not a good time. Gloria's strong will and persuasive instincts grant her a meeting with a fancy NAACP lawyer who happens to be in town, but he's not optimistic about Robbie's chances. We cannot expect justice in a racist court. It happens from time to time, but most times it won't. White juries are afraid of Negroes, so even our children seem dangerous on sight. That was the trap laid for Robbie before he ever kicked anyone. This story bounces back and forth between Gloria's frantic search for help and Robbie's living nightmare at the Reformatory. The warden forced Robbie to be his haint hunter, or ghost hunter, for the chance of an early release. But even though Robbie is quite gifted at speaking with the spirits, that doesn't protect him from the numerous beatings from the various awful adults running the place. It's a lot, but it is excellently crafted. Unlike some of the other schlocky shock horror I've read, like, this is top tier. Ooh, and a reminder, just because this is a historical work of fiction doesn't mean that shit like this doesn't still happen today. At various parts of the story, do comments on how inhumane solitary confinement is, how the police are always on the side of white people until white people try to help black people, how little black boys and girls are stripped of their childhoods way too prematurely, how annoying and ridiculous people sound when they tell black folks to trust in the system. You mean the very same system that put this 12-year-old boy in a prison? Same one? If you're down for an emotional and haunting look into Florida's past, give this one a go. Oh, also, Northerners, like me, don't think our history is without sin. Papa had told them that most white people in Chicago didn't like Negroes either. They were just more quiet about it and didn't post it on signs. Ooh, this one is a doozy. This is number 7, The Haunting of Alejandra by V. Castro. POV, you are Alejandra, a mother and wife whose job it is to cook, clean, and care for your husband, your home, and your 3 children. Every day. Forever. Kill me. Yeah, that's this book, basically. Or that's how it starts. You are basically watching this Mexican-American woman reflect on the burdens we women and femme-coded folk carry. Burdens which were passed down to us by our foremothers. Only after processing that trauma is Alejandra able to break the cycle of allowing the patriarchy / the people around her to suck all the life out of her flesh until she loses her goddamn mind. She started noticing this troubling pattern of behavior in herself and her maternal ancestors, so she decided to actively oppose this predestined future. I definitely got ahead of myself there. Some important background on Alejandra to give you some more context for the kind of pressure she was under. Alejandra was raised in a group setting at a Catholic orphanage. So when she was one day as an adult contacted by her biological grandmother through this DNA registry or ancestry service, she was so hyped. Like she was finally going to be able to learn more about her family history and herself. But her newfound family tree comes in, like a paper scroll thingy, and she shows it to her family, but no one is happy for her. Not her useless husband, and not any of her 3 kids. Like, come on. So that kind of seems like it was like the inciting incident to this story. Her family's underwhelming reaction was a hard blow, but Alejandra cannot take the time to care for herself after that hit because she is faced with the never-ending loop of caring for 3 children. Also needing to satisfy her husband and, groceries, laundry, school pickups. Yeah. She sees her husband achieving his dreams and she sits at home wanting to die. Her useless husband asked her to get therapy to help, but she feels like this is a fake concern. Less about her well-being and more about because she stopped serving his wishes with a smile on her face. Yeah. Alejandra is at her fucking limit. In hopes of diverting a full-on psychotic break, Alejandra enlists the help of a curandera. I think she also has a legit therapy counseling certification or something. I don't remember. Anyway, with this curandera's help, Alejandra is able to unpack her trauma and feel her true feelings. From her talk therapy sessions, Alejandra learns 2 things about herself. 1, she needs to stop being such a people pleaser, especially at the cost of her own health and sanity. Number 2, she must not pass down this toxic trait to her children for their own health and sanity. All this time, she's dealing with some intense personal family stuff. She's also being haunted by La Llorona. It's so good. I could talk about it all day. It's 5 stars, easily. 5 radiant stars. I love this one. Please check it out. At number 6, I have the graphic novel collection Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi. I was so in awe, absolutely gobsmacked by Satrapi's masterful handling of illustration and storytelling to pull you into her memories of growing up in Tehran, the capital city of Iran, during the Islamic Revolution of the late 1970s. She begins her story when she is a young girl attending a liberal French prep school that was forced under much more conservative control after the Western-backed Shah was overthrown. The new regime enforced strict rules on behavior, including separating students by binary gender and requiring the girls to wear veils. The times may have been full of violence and upheaval, but at least the Satrapi family was close-knit and supportive of Marjane. As a child, she read many books on revolutionaries and philosophers given to her by her parents and family members. This leads Marjane on a path of rebellion in the face of political upheaval, and I love that for her. But when the situation within Iran gets so dire, Marjane's parents decide to send her to Vienna for her high school years. She eventually returns for a short period afterwards, but ultimately she leaves her beloved homeland and has left it since, I believe. I don't know if she's been able to go back. Many of the trials Marjane faced in her life in Iran were connected to the contradictions between her personal life, who she wanted to be, versus how she was expected to behave in public. These problems of gender inequality and discrimination against women have plagued this country for decades. I mean, not just this country, but we're focusing on this book right now. Iran's Islamic Penal Code, the law, severely restricts women's rights in all aspects of life. Marriage, divorce, child custody, inheritance, everything. In the fall of 2002, 22-year-old Mahsa Jina Amini was arrested and murdered by Iran's morality police for the crime of failing to properly cover her hair. This tragedy sparked nationwide protests, which resulted in the deaths of hundreds of protesters, including dozens of children. Check out this link if you want to learn more. The Woman, Life, Freedom. It's a very important movement, and we should be supporting it. Anyway, beyond being a phenomenal work of visual and literary art, this graphic novel really resonated with me when I read it last year, because I saw myself in Marjane as she tearfully fled her beloved homeland to escape a life of oppression. This is because I read this during the year or so I thought I was moving to Germany. There were many reasons why I was going to go, but mainly, I needed to get the fuck out of Oklahoma. Living in Oklahoma was never easy, but by the end of my 7 years there, it was intolerable. There is a scene in Persepolis that shows Marjane's mother taping up the windows to protect against flying glass during a bombing, and blackout curtains to protect them from their neighbors. "What neighbors?" asked Marjane. Her mom replied, "Across the street. They're totally devoted to the new regime. A glimpse of what goes on in our house would be enough for them to denounce us." We literally had to do this in Oklahoma. Not the window taping part. Thankfully, we were lucky enough to not have to deal with potential bombings, but we did keep the window blinds closed at all times. It fucking sucked not being able to trust your neighbors. They may have been chill, or they may have hate crimed us. At the time, it was better to hide than risk putting a target on our backs. Anyway, Marjane's family hosted dance parties, hidden behind the curtains because, in spite of all the dangers, the parties went on. Without them, it wouldn't have been psychologically bearable, some said. Without parties, we may as well just bury ourselves now. A line that very much resonates with me right now and in the coming year. I knew we had to leave the deep red state of Oklahoma for anywhere else that was more progressive and inclusive. For a time, that safe haven was going to be Berlin. There we could do less hiding and more partying. But that fell through. Honestly, it was for the best. And luckily, we were both able to snag postdocs in our respective specialties here in Colorado. And I still plan a party. But I also want to find ways to help my new community, and doing that is so much easier living somewhere that doesn't fucking hate you. Y'all, I absolutely adored this book, and with the fresh hell that is Trump's second presidential term coming this January, I recommend everyone pick this up. We got a spicy one up next. At number 5, I have Tender as the Flesh by Agustina Basterica. This book perfectly elicits the feeling of existential dread from being a woman/uterus haver in today's America. This is why I am not having children. It is impossible to have children today in the United States because of late-stage capitalism. At least, not without significant trauma for both kid and parents. I barely want to be here. Why the fuck would I drag another soul into this shithole? I do plan on elaborating what I mean by that in a future in-depth video on this one, so go ahead and subscribe and click the bell so you can get that tea when it's piping hot. I wrote it and I read it. I'm gonna keep it in there. So what's the plot, you might be thinking? Well, in a dystopian future, there's this virus that made all animal meat poisonous to humans. Every single animal. So, this society decides to genetically engineer a special meat. Yeah, it's human meat. Of course it is. And people love it. It's pretty gross. The book's main character works as a manager at a local human slaughterhouse. They don't say human, they call it special meat. Very detached from where that meat is coming from. One day, as a little holiday bonus, he gets gifted a live specimen of the finest quality. Oh yeah, it is very illegal to have any form of personal contact with the special meat. Like, painful death kind of illegal. At first, the main character tries keeping her in the barn, but pretty soon, he starts treating her like a human being. Yeah, it gets pretty fucked up. I saw a lot of y'all on Goodreads are very focused on being disgusted by the cannibalism, and fair. My first read through went similarly, except you gotta look past the metaphor, because Basterica isn't doing this just to make you gag. She's trying to prove a point. A quote from the Irish Times: "I have always believed that in our capitalist, consumerist society, we devour each other. The goods and services we consume at alarming rates have a human cost to them, in addition to their monetary value. Basterica is asking you to please open your eyes to the very real suffering our hyper-consumerism is causing. Today, working adults are faced with the ever-increasing pressure to produce more and more and more and more and more until we pop. And companies are treating us like the little piggies we are, and most of us are too fucking dead to do anything but accept our slop and say thank you. May I please have another? Are you too tired to meal plan? Subscribe to HelloFresh. Too tired to cook? Order Factor fully prepared meals or spend way too much on DoorDash. Too tired to clean? Hire a maid. Buy a robo-vacuum." I could keep going, but my point is, the rich fucks in charge profit from us twice, or, however many dozens of times, microtransactions and all that. First, by siphoning off as much of our labor as we will let them, and number 2, by selling us fixes to the problems that they cause by taking away all of our time and energy. I beg of you, please learn how to set boundaries with your employers. Also, unionize. Just doesn't matter. Unionize. Yeah. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. Just try to be a little bit more mindful and selective with your purchases. That's what I'm trying to do in 2025. I'm just asking you to try. Even if you personally don't feel the crush of late-stage capitalism, the people responsible for your deliveries, your groceries, your healthcare, and so much more certainly are feeling the crush. I'll end this one with my favorite quote. You'll see what I mean. On the way to the exit, They pass the barn where the impregnated females are kept. Some in cages, others lie on tables. They have no arms or legs. He looks away. He knows that at many breeding centers, it's common practice to maim the impregnated females who would otherwise kill their fetuses by ramming their stomachs against the bars of their cage, or by not eating, doing whatever it takes to prevent their babies from being born and dying in a processing plant. This is it. This is how it feels to be a womb owner in 2024. And I can only imagine it's going to continue to feel that way for the next 4 years. Okay, that one was a lot. I get it. Let's move on. My number 4 is Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants by Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer. Ooh, I gotta read from the book. Oh, I didn't even hold up. I do own Tender is the Flesh, and I've, marked the crap out of it. That video is gonna happen one day. But anyway. Hold out your hands and let me lay upon them a sheaf of freshly picked sweetgrass, loose and flowing like newly washed hair. Golden green and glossy above, the stems are banded with purple and white where they meet the ground. Hold the bundle up to your nose. Find the fragrance of honeyed vanilla over the scent of river water and black earth, and you understand its scientific name, Quercole odorata, meaning the fragrant holy grass. In our language, it is called wing ashk, the sweet-smelling hair of Mother Earth. Breathe it in, and you start to remember things you didn't know you'd forgotten. I could literally sit here and read this entire book to you, but I won't. When I was reading it, I so easily could have highlighted every line of text in here. This has that powerful of a voice and story. Kimmerer structures her work according to the life cycle of sweetgrass: planting, tending, picking, braiding, and lastly, burning. And interspersed between the narrative of sweetgrass's life, Kimmerer ties in from her experiences as a mother, scientist, decorated professor, and enrolled member of the Citizen Potawatomi Nation. Please try this one. But don't you dare buy it off Amazon. Damn it. Check your local library, your local indie booksellers, all that fun stuff. Just not Amazon. I found this at a local bookstore back when I was in Oklahoma, and I'm very glad I bought it in physical copy. The next 3, honestly, the order varies by the day sometimes. They're all wonderful. You should read all 3 of them, but this is the order that they came out in. Or rather, the order I put them in when I finalized the script. Number 3 is Black River Orchard by Chuck Wendig. There is so much going on in this one. I'll do my best to make it make sense. I had 82 notes and 201 highlights in my ebook. I had a lot of notes to work with. It took me a while to write this review. Okay, the basic plot is we've got Dan. He is a local apple farmer, and his daughter is a typical sassy teen named Calla. And she has a boyfriend, a track star named Marco. He's Mexican, and her boyfriend. That'll come up later, I promise. We also have Meg and Emily, who are gay married and recently moved to the town. Their relationship isn't doing so hot. Dan ends up growing this stunningly beautiful goth red apple. It reminded me of the Kat Von D wedding. For several reasons by the end of it. The townsfolk who eat this spooky apple feel stronger, more vital, almost like the apple has unlocked a hidden magic that they had inside them all along. But not in a good way. I know I said there is a lot going on, because there is, but just try to remember that the apple is equal to white supremacy. For example, if the text says, "Some things are worth preserving. These apples are worth preserving." In your head, I want you to translate it to, "Some things are worth preserving. White heritage is worth preserving." See the connection? Need more proof? Okay. I'll quote the text directly. Apples came to America with the European settlers. The apple was the colonizer, I'm afraid. Okay. There are several character arcs I find worth talking about, but for brevity, I'm focusing on just two. Farmer Dan and sad wife Emily. Forgot I named her that. Poor girl. Alright. Farmer Dan. He dreams of making the apple orchard his father wanted but never could make happen. Finding the dark magic apple enables him to turn this dream into reality. Calla helps name her father's black-blooded red apple the Ruby Slipper, because there's no place like home, and nostalgia sells. With success and fortune comes major tunnel vision for Farmer Dan. I am what matters. Me, my apple, my orchard. Dan would do anything for this orchard, and when the orchard demanded a blood sacrifice as payment, Dan, of course, would pay it. Life for death, and death for life. The red that makes the green. White supremacy / capitalism / this apple requires human sacrifice. Let's not forget the indigenous blood that was spilled way back in the day whenever Dan's ancestors stole the land originally that this stupid orchard is currently on. Dan's tunnel vision also harms his relationship with his daughter. Against Calla's wishes, Dan convinces Marco to give up college to work in the orchard. Which is perfect for Dan, because he couldn't let his pure Calla White Lily daughter... Wait. Calla... Hold on. Because he couldn't let his pure Calla Lily White daughter be tainted by and chained down by some local brown boy. As his daughter, Calla represented Dan out in the world. Dan couldn't have her running around with some half-assed migrant worker. Marco would not be their future. She'd realize this in time. Yeah. No. Dan has bigger plans for her, because she's his property until he finds the appropriate man to hand her off to. Then she becomes that guy's property. She will never belong to herself if he has any say in it. And that sucks ass. That's a bad father. Don't do that. And when Calla voices her concerns about what the orchard is doing to her dad, her BF, and her entire town, Dan calls her a little fucking bitch and yells at her for not appreciating his orchard that feeds her, clothes her, buys her nice presents. He tells her to shut up. You will be nice to me from here on out. You will respect me and my work and what I've created here, what I've given to you, because if you don't, I will take it all away. I will take away the Wi-Fi. I'll take away your precious phone. I will not pay for any of your upcoming college. I will throw out your clothes. I will make you beg for your food. I will burn your fucking bed until it is nothing but a pile of greasy ash for you to sleep in. I am tired of being talked down to and taken advantage of. I am the most important person in your life, and it is high time you remember that and give me the respect I have earned. Calla breaks into sobs. If any of this sounds familiar to you, I'm sorry. Poor Calla. She lost her dad to the delusions of grandeur, and because he actually did reach it, that really breaks your brain in certain ways. It reminds me of all the folks who have lost friends and family to the cult of MAGA. And Calla tries to speak sense into her dad. The ruby slipper is a poison apple. I understand that poison got inside you and ate you up. And now you're like any other piece of shit God complex dickhead who got too full of himself to see the people around him as people. Some narcissistic monster, a shepherd leading his sheep over the edge of a cliff. Except maybe it wasn't even the apple that made you that way. Maybe you were always like that and you hid your true face. Maybe the apple just helped you take the mask off. Dan was stunned into silence. You will have to read the book if you want to know how Dan's arc ends, but there was that little teaser. Very emotional, that relationship between father and daughter. And since I wrote this part past November, over 77 million Americans were also enticed by that apple. They sold their souls and the lives of others for the chance to be white, or one of the good ones. Congrats, y'all played yourselves. Next we have Emily. Emily is an Asian American woman who got gay married to Meg, a white woman 10 years her senior, who disregarded Emily's wishes for a small wedding in favor of the pomp, the circumstance, the 100 guests, and the rustic farm-to-table vibe. Already off to an iffy start, I see. For years, Emily ignored the relationship's red flags in favor of the illusion of a happy marriage. As she put it, maybe the lies you told yourself become true enough, eventually. Like a magic spell, an incantation of deception, an illusion made real. Oh, honey. Oh. But their marriage hit a rough patch after Emily cheated on Meg. Not good. Leading to the pair to move to this town for a fresh start. And while Emily did fuck up, that does not give Meg the authority to unilaterally decide where they move, which is the case here. Also, Meg forbids Emily from working outside the house. Just out of control, out of spite. Meg seems to feel like because Emily betrayed her, it gives her the right to dictate all aspects of their lives. Babe, that's abuse. Don't do that. Emily wants to help the local LGBT kids, fight anti-blackness, help the homeless. Generally good things just because she wants to do some good, you know? But Meg doesn't trust her. Or maybe she's doing this because she's being a petty bitch. It's hard to tell because they never talk about it. Emily's betrayal has become the unspoken thing keeping them emotionally distant. Yet Meg reminds Emily of her failure all the time. Not ever actually talking about it, but needling her with little comments. Meg never forgave Emily. She just kind of forced her way past it. As Emily puts it, it's not good when your partner buries her emotional baggage in your collective backyard. Having something out in the open sucks, but it's way better than hiding it and pretending it's not there. I am 100% Team Emily. Meg sounds fucking exhausting. I made a list. Like I said, I had so many highlights. She's judgmental about everything Emily eats. She forced Emily to be completely financially dependent on her by making her stay at home while Meg worked and made the money. Emily apparently could never do anything right around the house either. Anything Emily would fix, Meg would come home and redo it herself anyway. Emily felt that she'd been set up for failure. Organization was not her bag, and yet that's what Meg wanted her to do. Organize their house. It was a test. No, don't do that to your spouse. What? Stop playing mind games. Just talk. This one was concerning. After an argument over dinner that ended with Meg chomping on her thumb while gnashing at the cursed apple, Meg tells Emily to clean this mess up, please. I'm going to go deal with my thumb. Emily was left in the kitchen with half-eaten bowls of soup and gleaming blood on the floor, the counter, the ceiling. Shit, she said, trying very hard not to scream/cry. Instead, she went in search of a rag and stepladder. Meg's kindness wasn't kind. It was hollow, a cold courtesy, not an act of genuine warmth. Meg keeps trying to get Emily to eat the apple, aka accept and assimilate to white supremacy. But Emily knows better, and she refuses. When Meg finds out that Emily has made a friend in town, oh dear, you don't control me, don't I? You're in my debt. You owe me for this house, for the life I have given you, for this place I have taken you. It is time to show you what I have given to you by taking it away. Why? Because you abuse me, Emily. You treat me like garbage. Take, and I get nothing in return except suspicion. I'm really giving it my all on this one, huh? Emily. Girl, run. Does this sound familiar, this whole situation? It definitely reminded me of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard, I don't even know what to call it, the trial that happened earlier, and everyone's reactions. Yeah. Emily and Meg's relationship is a harrowing example of how being gay does not prevent you from being an abusive partner, and how white supremacy plus an interracial marriage is a bad time. Wendig weaves a captivating tale of a community faced with fractured families and fucked up coping mechanisms. It's so messy and has some fantastic apple/human body horror. It's a great time. Okay, I have to stop myself. I still have 2 more to go. Please give this one a try. And our semi-finalist is Lapvona by Ottessa Moshfegh. I straight up don't know how to describe this book without you thinking I've lost my goddamn mind putting this filth at my number 2 spot. But anyway, using the background of a village in a medieval fiefdom, Moshfegh illustrates how the troubles we face in today's society aren't new. Shit's been fucked since forever. Each time you meet a new character, try to think about who they remind you of. Like, it's just, a little thought exercise for you all. The very basics of the plot are, there is a horrible father and shepherd and his mediocre son. The mediocre son kinda gets the prince killed. Instead of doing anything that made sense, the king responded to learning of his son's death by insisting that he and the shepherd switch sons. The shepherd agrees, so he buries the prince, and the mediocre son becomes the new prince and gains all that privilege and whatnot. And instead of doing any other normal fatherly thing, the king quickly assimilates the mediocre son into his depraved games. For example, trigger warning, feces? Buttholes? The king forces his new replacement son to rub a grape on his booty hole and then toss it into his servant's waiting mouth. Okay. I get it. It's icky and fucked up. Lots of folks on Goodreads thought so too. But I am ultimately okay with it because I consider it a narrative tool Moshfegh is using to deliberately trigger your disgust response. Like, you being grossed out is the point. Moshfegh is drawing your attention to how absolutely fucked up it is for a single person like the king to hold so much power and so much money. Money and power is a classic combo that is sure to corrupt any person, including this mediocre son that never had anything until he accidentally killed a prince. This gross grape toss is just one example of the fucked up shit rich people like the king make others do just for their own enjoyment. Because how else do you entertain someone who has everything and more? Yeah. Additionally, this book takes many shots at Christianity in an effort to show readers how the ruling class uses religion, particularly Christianity, to blindfold their followers, their sheep, their flock. Get it? Get it? They use religion to make you into a submissive sheep. Like how the king in the book uses his and his priest's shaky understanding of Christian lore to pander to the village folk. Very much how Trump claims to be a spiritual leader for the Christian far right. And also, the village priest can't even read Latin, meaning he can't read from the Bible during Mass, meaning he's just been spewing gibberish, and the townspeople have been eating it up because they don't know better. This is too relevant. And it's so much worse than just pandering. It's like the least of it. This rich fuck is using religion to make the hardworking people that make him money disregard any and all earthly comforts in return for eternal heaven, eternal comfort. Because he knows that in order for him to be as obscenely rich as he is, his workers need to be as poor as they are. A kind of poor that makes living life pretty fucking uncomfortable. That leaves these poor people to pray for the only rest their bodies will ever see, eternal slumber while their souls go to heaven. This is the carrot of religion that the king uses to encourage them to work real hard for him, so that God will pick them to go to heaven. The stick is the threat of eternal damnation. Womp womp. The king takes their money, their food. He even hoarded the town's water during a deadly drought. People he knew, people the shepherd knew, the shepherd's mediocre son knew, died because of the king's greed. But everyone is convinced that the king is God's favorite. So all his thievery is waved off as a sort of church tithing. Oh man, I haven't even talked about my favorite character. Ina is a raggedy old witch who breastfed the entire village as her career. Look, she was a child survivor of a plague that wiped out her entire family, so she didn't have many prospects, okay? No judging. Anyway, she does play an emotional role in the life of the mediocre son turned prince, because of the whole breastfeeding thing and how he grew up motherless, so this was the closest thing to a mother he had. I love her because she was able to convince a dusty old man to face his prejudices and become a better person. So this dude named Gregor hears that the hag is going around touching people's penises and other things. Okay, look, she was helping married couples trying to conceive. She was just doing doctorly things, nothing weird going on here. But this made Gregor so irate when he found out. So he told the priest, and the shitty priest told him to go confront Ina, so he does, but Ina asks him to smoke some caniba with her. Caniba being a medicinal herb that chills you out. Wink. After a hearty bowl of caniba, Ina has a heart-to-heart conversation with Gregor, and it actually goes really well. Ina even convinces Gregor that the dumbass useless priest was not the key to God. I'm paraphrasing here. God was the land itself, the sun and moon and rain, all of it. The sheep's wool, the cow's manure, and so on. The king's ass-kissing priest has nothing to do with it. And it was Ina who opened his eyes to it. How? By speaking to him not as a man, but as a neutral soul. Life goals! I mean, come on! And Gregor is legitimately so relieved to be free from having to constantly prove his manhood. Because that shit isn't real, okay? It is a leash the ruling class ties around your neck to keep you under their control. The patriarchy harms everyone, including men. Including white men. So, instead of toxic masculinity, please choose love. Love was a distinctly human defect which God had created to counterbalance the power of human greed. Yeah. And you, my dear viewers, I am asking you to choose love and respect for yourself and others this year. Let's start seeing other people as real human beings and not throwaway NPCs, Elon. And if you hear a young person near you repeating some Jordan Peterson, Elon Musk, Nick Fuentes bullshit, for the love of God and all that is holy, please put on your parenting hat and set them straight. Honestly, people don't have to be young to hold on to naive opinions, so parent to your heart's content. There are way more folks out there that need additional parenting than there are responsible adults to provide hard lessons. Y'all, I'm so tired. But I am taking these holidays to rest and get rejuvenated because I am ready for 2025. I am ready to fight. But not physically. Ouch, my bones. Well, I wasn't planning on reading my year of rest and relaxation, but looks like I have to now. Hot damn. If you are down with reading some fucked up shit with lots of literary allegories, please give this one a shot. Check your library. And finally, in first place, the best book I read between the years of 2023 and 2024. Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Dana, a young black woman married to a white man in 1976 California, is repeatedly, forcibly time-traveled back to a Maryland plantation in the 1800s. The first time she gets blinked to the plantation, she ends up saving the life of a little white boy named Rufus Whalen. Later on, she finds out that he is her slave-owning ancestor. Awkward, because she realizes with this that in order for her life to happen later on in the 1900s, she knows that Rufus will have to assault one of her black ancestors. That sucks. And this guy keeps almost dying, and it turns into Dana's job to keep him from dying. And each time Dana is blinked back and encounters Rufus, he is a bit older and a bit more staunchly racist, even with Dana's attempts to teach him some fucking manners. I found Butler's use of time travel to be a very useful tool for demonstrating how racism and white supremacy becomes ingrained in us, in your psyche. For someone like Rufus, his everyday existence reinforces his white supremacist view of the world. He was a wealthy as fuck white boy who had his every need and whim taken care of by people he was told were beneath him. So of course he thinks he is literally biologically better than them. Like, think about it. First, Rufus is born to a mother who was programmed to give up everything for her husband and sons. Then, the pissant is catered to by all of the servants, enslaved folks. And then, as the pissant grows older and holds more power, he gets his figurative dick sucked by all the stupid jealous fucks who only want his money and land. Of course, this shitbird grows up to be an entitled monster. There is no other way he would have turned out with a rearing like this. Good lord. What a mindfuck it must have been for Dana to realize that she saved the life of the boy who would one day own the plantation, one day be the slaveholder. Even so, she did her best to look after him, to be his friend, to maybe plant a few ideas in his mind that would help both her and the people who would be his slaves in the years to come. Which was certainly an honorable goal, but who was she to him? She was, as Dana herself put it, the worst possible guardian for him. A black to watch over him in a society that considered blacks subhuman, a woman to watch over him in a society that considered women perennial children. She tried. She really did. But she was just a single person going up against an entire anti-black, anti-woman society. I first finished this nearly 2 years ago in January 2023. It didn't even make it on my best of list for that year. I made it, but I never filmed it. But it wasn't until November 2024 that I felt the full force of this God tier book. Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams, Rachel Lindsay, Tasha Adams. These are all examples of how a single black woman cannot save a system built on white supremacy. Yes, I am comparing US politics to The Bachelor. They're basically the same thing. Whenever black women are put into positions of power without first addressing the racist foundations of these systems, it's like throwing a baby into a pack of hungry wolves. It's not gonna go well. Black women have it so fucking hard in this life, just generally. They're fucking tired. Me too, but they've got so much more shit on their plate, I can't even imagine. They need our help, okay? The rest of us, or rather the decent folk remaining in this fight, need to step the fuck up. Because this book is a perfect example of how the current system is rigged against anyone who is not a white land-owning man. Cis man, specifically. Poor Dana, a bright black woman from the progressive 70s, even with all her wit and compassion, could not undo the lifetime of white supremacist indoctrination of a single white boy. Dana literally saves the pissant from drowning, and yet he still can't see her as a real person. Look at me when I say this. This societal pattern of raising entitled white boys and dehumanizing black women is still very much an issue today. This work was originally published in 1979, but it is as relevant as ever in year of our Lord 2024. Yes, I get it. American history is uncomfortable, but people, especially Americans, need to connect the dots between this country's history of oppression and exploitation and our current dumpster fire of a society. That's history. It happened whether it offends you or not. Quite a bit of it offends me, but there's nothing I can do about it. Girl, tell me about it. Oh my God. The things I have learned these last few years. So what now? Well, bad times are coming. Worse times are coming, that is for sure. And as hard as you personally get hit by the wave of fascist bullshit that is coming, please remember that number one, you are not alone. Number two, there are people out there that need your help today. I have a list of various organizations that I've donated to in the past and I'm looking to donate to in the near future. So if you have some extra cash after this holiday season, consider donating to one of these organizations or another one. Look for local orgs when you can. National orgs are sometimes a bit too unwieldy to efficiently get money and resources to the hands of the people that need them, so that's why I suggest go local. All right, that is the end of it. That is my best of list for the last 2 years. I have one little gift for y'all who made it all the way to the end as a sincere thank you for spending an hour plus with me. It was a lot. So I have for you, my attentive, loyal viewers, I have for you my hastily made best movies of 2024. These aren't necessarily movies that came out last year, but I did watch them last year, so I'm going to count it similar to how I do this best of list. This is in the order I watched them. It's a long list, hold on. May, December, Underwater, Panic Room, Poor Things, Zone of Interest, Gia, The First Omen, Cube, Spirited Away, Bodies, 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 The Lighthouse, Hundreds of Beavers, Love Lies Bleeding, It's What's Inside, Samsara, I Saw the TV Glow, Long Legs, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Sanctuary, Debs, Happiest Season, and Nosferatu 2024. My throat hurts. That was a lot of words to say, and I messed up a bunch, so I had to say lots and lots of words. And I will leave you with one more quote. Better to stay alive, at least while there's a chance to get free. Stay safe out there, folks. Okay, I think that brings this video to a close. Now, for the last time in 2024, as I am recording this on New Year's Eve, please do something nice for yourself. Use that fancy lotion or perfume you got for Christmas. And please, 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 with a cherry on top, do something nice for others. Bye!